the frontline workers, like the people on the ground that are actually doing the work to, you know, support the business, essentially. And that has always been a significant issue I have had in every single leadership position I've ever had. And so, and it's funny because I'm a person of color, but it's funny because I hear this and I've heard this when I get hired into leadership positions. Often they will say, "We really appreciate your your like what's the word? Your creativity and your innovation." And then you go into the work expecting that this is why they're bringing you on. No, they just want you to do what they want you to do. And yet, somehow, as an organization, they are still pushing creativity and innovation, but not actually allowing anyone to engage in that process successfully. And it is so infuriating. And I mean, about year and a half or so ago, I was laid off from my last corporate job. And as much as that sucked, and I still sometimes miss it, what I realize I miss is actually the connection with others, you know, as Denise was saying, like that connection, needing that connection. And it, yeah, and I just felt it so, I feel it so lacking in a corporate environment. Um, and so that's a big reason why after I got laid off and going back to divine timing, I actually found I was trying to get jobs and I would make it to the interview phase. I would even go for like second, third interviews, but then I was never ultimately selected. And that had never happened to me before, to
Yeah.
be honest. Like it was just, it was new to me that that this was happening. And I was like, okay, something's not right here. But then all of a sudden, like a month later, I was getting people approaching me to do more like somatic related work, I would say, to help them with like spiritual alignment and things like that, which I was doing kind of on the side. And then yeah, and it was just kind of like, oh, I see what's happening here. So like
Yeah.
I totally get how like divine timing completely plays into all of this and how, you know, how you can lose yourself in certain settings. And I'm really finding that now. Like the environment that I want around me is very specific. And yeah, and I don't want to compromise that anymore. And I don't think I could
Yes.
easily go back to a corporate structure anytime soon. And if I were to, there would be some serious boundaries there because, yeah, I just, it's such, divine timing is just truly such an amazing thing. And I just appreciate the divine timing of all of this as well that you've put together. So, yeah,
Oh,
anyways.
thank you. Yeah, I love that so much because yeah, Darrell was so spot on with that. Yeah, we often wouldn't choose, but it is what cements us in the direction that we're going. I definitely know that my interruption was one of those situations. Um, yeah, and I still, mention it every now and again to a few of my clients. Not everybody is, in that timing or in that path, right? But a few of my clients, I think that it would be a nice grow stretch goal, to think about consulting for corporate because I think we're so used to bowing down to the framework of the system. And when we're here to disrupt the system, which is why we don't feel the affinity of wanting to be in the system. But what we can do is start to inform that system. And what I think is important about that is again having the nuance of the different aspects of what it takes to be in cooperation with nature and our greater selves within this lifetime, right? So we need the people that are going to bring that info to the structure so that they can start to grow and shape themselves in a different way. When I say corporate, a lot of times I have that duality aspect showing up for me because the assumption is that it's going to only look one way. But there are many, many corporations that are taking conscious routes, and they're sending their managers to consciousness training. We actually did a book, what was that, 15 Commitments to Conscious Leadership. And it's a huge training program, and they're very seasoned coaches that are applying these principles of conscious interactions, vulnerability and communication, all of this to the corporate dynamic. And then, as I go and I learn more and more about business, I see on YouTube, they're talking about how you have to squeeze like every moment of time out of a interaction. So if somebody can't state what they need quickly, then you just kick them out of the room and never consider their idea. And I'm just like, no wonder we're so like no wonder I have that perception, right? And the reality is it takes more time to think deeply. Not always. Sometimes it comes in that flash, like with especially for people like Darrell. But some of us don't work that way. And in order for us to be part of the conversation and create the holistic solution, you have to include us. It may take a little longer. I get it. I get
Yeah,
frustrated with myself when I listen to myself, but it's important. It's important. It's what's causing that current imbalance.
yeah, I really resonate with that. And I don't know if anyone's heard of Simon Sinek at all.
What happened?
He's I really like him. He's great for, really looking at leadership and really connecting with people. And he comes at it from like very much a business focus, but like he still does talk about, you know, being authentic and being in tune with ourselves and understanding our why and things like that. But there's always been this one clip, and when I got laid off, actually, a friend of mine sent it to me, and she said, "This clip reminds me of you and your situation." And so I watched it, and it's this clip that he talks about how the Navy promotes people. And basically, it's performance versus trust. And the outcome essentially, or like what the Navy says is, and he says this is why they're so successful, is because they would rather promote somebody who falls into the high trust category versus the high performance category. And he
Mm,
says what happens most often in corporate spaces that we see is that the high performer, low trust people are the ones being promoted. And when you hear that and you think about it, it's like, no wonder so many of these workplaces end up being so toxic for people because, like you're promoting the that energy. And so I've always found that really interesting. He said that the Navy said that the ideal person is to promote. It's the